guys, welcome back to another video, another week of gaming news. If you are new here or if you have been watching for a while and you do enjoy what you see, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also check out the link in the description to check out my Spotify, where you can listen to this show via the audio version, and it comes out a couple hours after the YouTube version. So let's start off here. Let's talk about the rumor that has been going around now for at least a year or so, and that is the PlayStation 5 Pro. I've been hearing that PlayStation is going to be announcing and releasing a PS5 Pro in 2024. There's always that question as to whether we need a Pro console, whether the market is interested in a Pro console right now, and whether Xbox will come out and compete with a Pro version of this current generation of consoles. But now we have the specs that apparently were leaked for the PS5 Pro. This here sounds like a major jump over from the PS5 and gets it closer to what people want to see, which would be 4K 60 consistently within games. This one here may actually be able to do that. Now, the rumor comes from YouTube channel Moore's Law is Dead. And of course, Moore's Law is Dead. It was one of those YouTube channels that was talking about the RDNA 3 stuff back with the original PlayStation 5, which to me just made absolutely no sense that some of these YouTubers were pushing that as something that was actually true. And it wasn't ending up being true. So there is definitely speculation on this rumor. But since Moore's Law is Dead did come out here with this rumor, everyone else has been confirming this. You have Tom Henderson here on Insider Gaming. You had The Verge confirm it, and pretty much all the other outlets actually confirmed that this document was true. Tom Henderson here saying, speaking with sources who wish to remain anonymous because they were not authorized to talk about company plans, we can confirm that the leaked documentation from the YouTube channel Moore's Law is Dead is real. Despite the criticism of the leaker and the leaked specs, Insider Gaming can confirm that the documentation leaked is from a PlayStation developer portal, which was sent out this week to a wider band of third-party developers. So he got this because obviously it was sent out to more people, and the more people that have information, the higher chance that information is actually going to be leaked out. So again, still a rumor, still take it with a grain of salt, but take that information for what you will. But here are these specs, and it's a big jump. It is a pretty beefy Pro console. It says here, today's leaked documents are also confirmed rendering at 45% faster than the PS5, 2 to 3 times the ray tracing, 4 times in some cases, 33.5 teraflops. Now, there's always the discussion about teraflops, and the reality is teraflops don't fully determine how good a game is going to perform on the console. There are so many other things that go into it. But if you remember, with the start of this generation, it was the Xbox Series X's teraflops versus the PS5 teraflops, and the Series X had an advantage, which they were able to say it was the world's most powerful console. And now, if this is true, it does come out at 33.5 teraflops, the PS5 Pro. It blows away the Xbox Series X in terms of just that raw compute power. So this will be a really interesting thing to track as to how Xbox is going to want to handle and tackle this, or do they even care about being the world's most powerful console anymore, at least this generation, or will they just wait until the next generation and release something to compete? Because the rumors right now with the Xbox consoles, the next console that is supposed to be coming out has been a handheld version and then an at-home console. The question is, how powerful is that at-home console going to be? Will it be far more powerful than this? Will it rival this? All of those questions we do not know, but this sounds like a nice, massive jump up here to get closer to, I think, what people want to see, that 4K 60 performance from the console that essentially has been promised to gamers now for a generation and a half, and just really hasn't hit that. It continues on here, and this is, I think, the most important thing for the performance of these upcoming consoles. It's actually the technology and the tools within it. And it says here, the PSSR, the PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution Upscaling and Anti-Aliasing Solution, will be on this console, which would be, I believe, like something like the NVIDIA DLSS and the AMD FSR, all of those things, but from PlayStation natively, that they have created, that will be obviously exclusive to PlayStation consoles and PlayStation hardware, which will take off some of that load from the console itself, not having to use the raw power to get good performance in games. That's going to be super big going forward into the next gen of consoles and just hardware that does come out, because it's very expensive to get a console that can really put out the top performance, to be anywhere comparable to higher end GPUs on the PC market, which consoles never will be at that, because consoles are a completely different base. Like, they are made so that they are more affordable, more convenient, so that they have a much broader base of appeal for the customer. So it will never actually be on the end of a high-end PC. But if they can get stuff like this into their consoles working well and having developers utilize it, I think it'll be very important to be able to release great consoles at that lower cost that can actually give great performance and resolutions all at the same time. Now, it does say here, support for resolutions up to 8K is planned for future SDK version. And again, this is where that PSSR will come in to be able to actually maybe make this something that does come true. I mean, there's even 8K on the box right now for the PS5, but these promises with these resolutions and frame rates, they never actually truly always come to fruition when these consoles do release. It says here, custom machine learning architecture, AI, I think is going to be huge going forward, as AI accelerator supporting 300 tops of 8-bit computation, 67 flops of 16-bit floating point. So I think AI is going to be massive in the future of these consoles to be able to help provide better performance out of them. Now, later on Sunday, we actually got some more specs here that were leaked about the PlayStation 5 Pro. Previously, I just talked about the GPU specs and performance targets, and so this will be kind of a cut into the video, but we got some more information here about the system memory, the CPU, as well as the audio for the PlayStation 5 Pro. So the standard PlayStation 5 at 440 gigabytes per second for the system memory. The PlayStation 5 Pro is going to have a 28% increase over the standard console, 576 gigabytes per second. And they say here, as outlined, is that the PlayStation 5 Pro system memory is more efficient than the standard console, so the bandwidth gain may increase by over 28%. Now, when it comes to the CPU, this is where there isn't a huge change. They say the CPU is identical to the standard PlayStation 5. However, the Pro has a high CPU frequency mode, which takes the CPU to 3.85 gigahertz, a 10% increase over the standard console. They say in high CPU frequency mode, more power is allocated to the CPU and will downclock the GPU by around 1.5%, resulting in roughly 1% lower GPU performance. And when it comes to the audio, the ACV in the PlayStation 5 Pro runs at a higher clock speed over the standard PlayStation 5, resulting in the ACM library having 35% more performance. More convolution reverbs can be processed, more FFT or IFFT can be processed. And they also say here that to make the PlayStation 5 Pro as competitive as possible, that it will have a detachable disk drive identical to the PS5 Slim, and it will have 1 terabyte of storage space. Those are the specs that were leaked that apparently are true, and that this thing is going to be coming out in 2024. Again, they say here that Insider Gaming, who has also shared documentation from the developer portal under the condition that it's not shared publicly or privately, can confirm that dev kits have been available to first-party studios since September 2023, third-party since January 2024, and from spring 2024, test kits will be also available, which will be identical to the final product. Insider Gaming understands that PS5 Pro is currently aiming for a tentative holiday 2024 release, but that date could change due to the lack of first-party games released on PlayStation 5 this year. So lots of stuff still up in the air. We don't know if this is actually going to be coming out this year. We don't know when the announcement's going to be. But I find this very interesting in how this is going to shift the market and how many people actually want this. Like, how many people will actually be going out and buying a PS5 Pro? This, at these specs, still sounds like it's going to be expensive. Like, I'm thinking the lowest end, like $600. That's like the lowest end I think they're going to be able to release this at. And you think about the profit margins, and you think about PlayStation and what's happening there. Is this a good move for them? do they really think that this is going to have mass appeal and they're going to be able to make some money off of this or get a lot more people into their ecosystem to purchase all of their software, which would be the main point of it? Do they really think this is going to move that needle? I'm not sure. We don't know how much this thing costs to make, but it does not seem that realistic, even though they are saying here that all of this stuff is true, and it very well could be. But we will obviously wait and see everything. And again, the narrative here and the discussion going forward, what is Xbox going to do? Do they even care about that console power narrative thing anymore? And at the same time, since Xbox is releasing games on PS5, are they going to get their hands on one of these test kits, one of these dev kits at Xbox Studios, and know all of the secret sauce of PlayStation going forward? So when they do put out their next console, they can one up that. That will be another thing that potentially keep in mind here as we move forward into the next generation of consoles. But this is where things are really going to start ramping up and getting exciting for the next future hardware releases in the console space. But let's jump over here. Let's talk Pocket Pair. One of the most successful games on Xbox this generation has been Pal World. And as we know, small game from a small developer comes out and everybody falls in love with it. It kind of is reminiscent of Pokemon in the characters, but doesn't play like Pokemon, as is a lot more to this, a lot more depth to this game versus Pokemon. And it did so well that it released in January and via Steam Early Access and the Xbox Game Preview, and attracted 25 million players in its first month. And they say this here from Pocket Pair, that apparently they didn't specify where else they would be releasing this game, but they say it could come potentially to other platforms, but they didn't specify whether it's PlayStation, Nintendo, or mobile. They say that they've also been considering offers for a partnership or acquisition, but the company hasn't engaged in any buyout talks with Microsoft. Now, why this company would be so attractive, it's not only because they have 25 million players, and you're going to have now a games as a service game that is most likely going to last very long as they continue to add content to it. The profit margins are going to be insane because it costs only $6.7 million to make. That would be the most attractive thing here, I think, for a company like Microsoft, PlayStation, Nintendo, anyone out there that would potentially want to go out and acquire Pal World. It is a game that has broad appeal, it was cheap to make, and it is going to be an insane money maker for years and years to come. Specifically, here is what the director of Pocket Pair says: "We are and will remain a small studio. I want to make multiple small games. Big budget AAA games are not for us. Games are most fun when playing with friends. A game without multiplayer mode just doesn't feel right in the era that we live today." So, I mean, that is where this industry is going to as well. We're seeing those shifts. We're seeing the shifts from all the companies out there, especially recently with PlayStation, with a lot of stuff that has happened there. You've seen Xbox preparing for this for a long time now with their acquisitions and releasing just a large variety of different styles of games, single player, multiplayer, games of service, all that stuff. And this, again, something like a company like Pocket Pair here, who is not going to be focusing on AAA, going to be focusing on smaller games, is just extremely attractive, I think, for a lot of these companies, because they've made a very successful game. And now they're known, and they'll have this moneymaker forever. And then they'll be able to use that notoriety from the team that made Pal World to release another games as a service that potentially is going to be as successful. So we'll see what happens here. Right now, they're staying as a small team. I don't care whether they get acquired or not. I actually think almost in a way it would be better if they did stay independent, so they could make whatever they want guaranteed. But we'll see. I feel like at some point someone's going to sweep in here and pick up Pocket Pair. And the fact that they've worked with Microsoft so much, they have the partnership there with the early access, and they're not even on any other consoles. To me, it's a no-brainer if you're Xbox and Microsoft who want to get into talks here with Pocket Pair and see what they can come up with, whether that is just furthering the partnership or a potential acquisition. All right, let's talk Persona 6, because as we know, this generation Xbox has done a great job of getting games that were previously not on the platform. I think they've done a great job of having more appeal in the Japanese region, whether that's translated into sales or not. Just the fact that they have games that people there will want to play. I think they've done a good job with that. Persona coming onto Game Pass is pretty crazy. You would have never thought about that years ago. And now everyone is waiting for the next Persona game, which is Persona 6. And apparently it is being planned for Xbox, which would be massive news for Xbox fans, massive news for the Xbox platform if it does release day one on the Xbox platform as it releases on the PlayStation. This says here that before last year, when 3 games in the Persona series reported to the Xbox console and included in Game Pass, it had only appeared on Xbox twice with fighting games Persona 4 Arena and Persona 4 Arena Ultimax, released in 2012 and 2024 respectively. And now there's a bunch of leakers coming out here saying that Persona 6 is coming to Xbox, saying here there's a strong case for refreshed interest from Atlas and Xbox then, and according to industry insider Nate the Hate, it's planning to release the next game in the series for Xbox, saying from the information I've heard, it does seem Persona 6 will be coming to Xbox, saying I'm not 100% sure it will be day and date with the PlayStation version, but considering the way the Persona games have been day and date with the multi-platform releases at this point, it is safe to say it's an assumption to make. So Nate the Hate, as we know, has leaked a bunch of stuff in the past, is saying Persona 6 is coming over to Xbox. You also have here the well-known Atlas leaker Midori saying it is correct information and multiple platforms too. So confirming what Nate the Hate has said. Back in August of 2023, Special Nick actually, I believe, was the first to report this, that it is Persona 6 at least will not be locked up to PlayStation, saying this.
Persona 6 is another game coming from Atlas. And that's why I thought it was funny, because I had heard the rumors of Persona 6. Sony was trying to lock it up, apparently. That's what I read on Resetera and other places, that Sony would lock up Persona 6.
Are you telling me it's not locked up
Not according to the DM I just got. I just got a DM that said it's coming to Xbox day one.
Persona 6. That is a change in...
So there you have it. He says this back in August 23 that Persona 6 is coming to Xbox Day 1, but also in the rumor mill, so just take again with a grain of salt based off of a DM he received. So I think it's pretty likely overall that Persona 6 is going to make its way out to Xbox. I don't see at this point, after the relationship that they have built by putting their games into Xbox Game Pass and finally releasing more of their games on the Xbox platform, that they would all of a sudden go back and then lock this game up to PlayStation, Sega, and Atlas. Xbox, they have a great relationship, so I would be expecting Persona 6 releasing day one on the Xbox console. All right, let's jump over here. Let's talk Ninja Theory and Hellblade 2. Because whether you're a big fan of the game or not, one thing that will be apparent, I think, when this game releases is just how insane the game looks, how good it looks, and how much of a showpiece it can be graphically, and the technology that they've used to create this game. We know this is coming out May 21st, Hellblade 2. And now we have confirmation that there will be a photo mode at launch. It says here from Cami on Twitter, Ninja Theory confirms Hellblade 2 will have a photo mode at launch on May 21st. New in-game screenshots. So here are the screenshots, and it's just pretty insane how good this looks. Now, I don't know where these in-game screenshots take place, but man, it's pretty crazy. Especially this one here, this second screenshot. This looks like this is probably like a cutscene of some sort, but still, it looks extremely realistic, and I can't wait to actually feel this level of realism in action on a controller and just see how it does run on the Xbox console. So pretty excited to see how Hellblade 2 does and how it looks. For me, this game, more so than anything, it's just a showpiece that I want to see graphically on my TV, and just see if all of the work and all of the hype that we've heard about Ninja Theory and how they're going about creating this game does come true. And if the combat is vastly improved, that will be a huge, huge bonus, because I was not a big fan of the first Hellblade. I found it kind of boring from the gameplay perspective, and that's what I'm looking forward to the most here, is the graphical showcase and then seeing how that combat is at the end of the day. We also have this here from Kemi as well, and from Bloomberg, that Helldivers 2 has sold more than 8 million copies. This is according to analysts, saying most remarkably, the numbers are growing every week. We believe the game has performed well ahead of expectations. 8 million copies already for Helldivers 2. Massive success for this game. A massive success for PlayStation and trying to make more money off of games as a service and multiplayer. And they're going to see these numbers. They're going to see that they released Helldivers 2 day and date on PC at the same time as PlayStation 5. And I think logically, you have to sit back and think going forward, PlayStation is going to be releasing a lot more of their games day and date on PS5, especially if they do create more multiplayer and games as a service games. I would almost expect those to always be day and date on the PlayStation 5. And that's what we've seen, at least that whole pivot happening recently. They're releasing way more games on PC that people would have never expected coming over, like of Ghost of Tsushima that just got announced, and apparently Last of Us 2 Remake is coming to PC. So it's a big change in the industry, and I think this is for the better. It means more people can actually play these great games that you would have had to go out and buy a console just to play it. So happy to see this, and great for Helldivers too with the success. And finally, let's end off here with Battlefield, Marcus Leto, and EA, and not very many good things to say, or really nothing to say, because they have nothing good to say about EA itself. As you know, with Battlefield, they've seen some pretty big directors leaving. We saw Marcus Leto leave. We saw Craig Morrison leave. And it really looks like Battlefield, with the layoffs and the people leaving, is not in a good state, or they're at least winding down Battlefield 2042 to jump into the next version of the game. I've always said Battlefield is that game that could compete with Call of Duty. There was a time where there was some fierce competition, and I think Battlefield needs to be competitive, and I'm hoping that it continues to grow and back to where it was and get competitive, especially with the future releases. But as of right now, at least in the studio side of things, all the absences and layoffs is definitely a sign that they are moving on, I think, to a new project. So the former Battlefield director, Marcus Leto, actually took to Twitter, and he was kind of talking about why he hasn't commented on his departure from EA. And he says this: "Not been saying much here since I don't have anything positive to say about EA. My recent departure and how so many, including my team, are suffering due to the industry sweeping layoffs." And if you do remember, EA had announced they were laying off 5% of its global workforce. And in an announcement of the studio's closure of Ridgeline, which was a studio that they had opened up, EA had actually opened up Ridgeline Studios to be responsible for the single player aspect of the Battlefield franchise, I believe, going forward. In an announcement that the studio was closing, Laura Miele, president of EA Entertainment and Technology, seemed to insinuate that Leto's exit was part of the reason for the studio's closure, saying this: "Marcus Leto recently made a personal decision to leave the project. To ensure our work continues uninterrupted, we immediately appointed leadership at Criterion to oversee our single-player work. As a part of this change, we'll be winding down Ridgeline as a standalone studio in Seattle, with some team members joining Ripple Effects." So, I mean, there's kind of a lot to take away from that. He wasn't happy with EA. Obviously, something is going on there which led him to leave. And because he left, they actually had to close down an entire studio. So I wonder if this is something that he knew was coming, he left before it happened or whatever. But either way, there is just it's not looking good internally here for EA and for Battlefield. Hopefully they can get it on track going forward for the next release of the game. And it'll be interesting to see how all of these shifts and handing over the single player aspects to another studio, how this all ends up turning out when they eventually do announce and release the next Battlefield. But I will end the video there, guys. If you did enjoy this video, hit that thumbs up. If you are new here, hit that subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next video.
Bye.